Hi everyone, it's Marianne and welcome to My Wasteless Life. In this video, let's talk about the 7 reasons why our houseplants are experiencing yellowing leaves. Thank you so much for joining me today, and if you're new, welcome to My Wasteless Life, where I take you along my plant journey and share with you my beginner tips and tricks for houseplants and sustainable lifestyle. So for today's video, we're going to talk about yellowing leaves in our houseplants, the reasons for them, and what we can do to remedy them. A lot of my houseplants are actually experiencing yellowing leaves right now, and when that happens as a plant parent, we kind of feel bad or a little bit of failure if a lot of our houseplants are experiencing yellowing leaves or any types of ailments. But yellowing leaves is a natural occurrence with our houseplants. We can't expect our houseplants to look 100% perfect all the time. And yellowing leaves is one of the most common issues our houseplants experiences. And unfortunately, there is no one-size-fits-all reason or remedy for yellowing leaves, but it doesn't have to be a death sentence for our houseplants. And it's also a great learning experience for us plant parents to get our houseplants a little bit more. First reason our houseplant is experiencing yellowing leaves is more often than not, a yellow leaf just means that the leaf is reaching the end of its life cycle. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with our houseplants. This usually happens with the oldest leaves in our houseplants, usually the ones that are found at the base of the plant, and with our plants that has white variegation. Since leaves with white variegation don't have the ability to photosynthesize, they reach the end of their life cycle a lot faster compared to leaves that are green. The only thing we can do is to prune it from the plant so that the plant no longer spends the energy in trying to keep that leaf alive and just send the energy and the nutrients elsewhere in the plant. The second most common reason for yellowing leaves is due to watering. It could be either from underwatering, overwatering, or inconsistent watering. While many of our houseplants can thrive on neglect and are very forgiving when we forget to water them, some of our houseplants cannot afford its soil to be too dry for too long before we water them. So as an act of self-preservation, it will divert nutrients to other parts of the plants, causing some of the leaves to yellow. And overwatering is a common mistake made by plant parents, especially new beginners, because we tend to love our plant a little bit too much. And overwatering can mean two things. We give too much water, and second, we water it way too often. And if our plants are experiencing yellowing leaves due to overwatering, it means our plants is already experiencing root rot because it couldn't process the nutrients and oxygens in the soil because of too much water. The third watering issue is inconsistent watering. Some plants like the fiddle fig, rubber tree, or even some pothos like the Cebu blue pothos thrive on a consistent schedule. They don't like their soil to get too dry for too long, but they also don't like getting wet feet. So a consistent watering schedule is a must for these types of plants. Do not do well with extremes and prefer to be watered on a set schedule. So if watering is the issue behind the yellowing leaves in your houseplants, investing in a moisture meter might be something that you would want to do, as it takes away the guesswork on whether you should water your plants or not. And also using tracking spreadsheets or apps to help you keep track of your watering schedule is also helpful. I myself use the app called Planter, which gives me daily reminders on the plants that I need to water for the day. If you're having issues with watering, especially with overwatering your plants or with inconsistent watering, then I would suggest bottom watering your plants to make sure that your plant only gets the right amount of water it needs. The third reason, and this one is a doozy, is that your houseplants could be experiencing pest pressures or a viral or a bacterial infection. This unfortunately is a lot harder to determine, especially during the early stages, because your plants could be experiencing yellowing leaves but you don't see any pests or you don't see anything wrong with the roots yet, and those things manifest themselves a lot later. But if your houseplants is having yellowing leaves due to pest pressures, then give your plants a very thorough wash with water and spray it with your preferred pest repellent. For me, I do a homemade pest control solution, which is neem oil and Castile soap mixed with water, and I use that to spray over my plants when they're experiencing pest pressures. But whatever remedy or solution you choose, make sure you test it first, because you might end up damaging the leaves or the plant, which has happened to me with some of my plants that got damaged with the solution I sprayed them with, like my neon pothos and Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. So just make sure you test first before you spray your plants with anything. And if it's a viral or bacterial infection, unfortunately, there is very little to no remedy with that. And as I mentioned earlier, these things manifest themselves at the later stages. So the best thing that you could do is to cut the parts of the plants that are still healthy and propagate it, and hopefully you'll have a new plant with those propagations. And the number 4 reason for yellowing leaves could be soil imbalance. This could mean lack of nutrients, over fertilizing, or soil pH. Our plants, when we give them the right amount of water and light, they have everything they need to survive and thrive. However, most of our houseplants are in containers and in pots, so over time, the nutrients in the soil gets depleted. So unlike plants that are growing outside, they don't have the microorganisms in the soil to help them replenish the nutrients in the soil. So over time, those nutrients get depleted, and it's up to us to help replenish it. During the growing season, it's highly recommended that we fertilize our houseplants. I have a Houseplants Back to Basics episode on fertilizing. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. The link will be somewhere up here and also down in the description. And another soil imbalance issue is over-fertilizing. Sometimes when we do fertilize, we tend to overfeed our plants, and that would be manifested in yellowing leaves and burnt leaves. So one way you could correct that is to leach the soil or to flush the soil. I also have a video on how to flush your houseplants, so if you haven't seen that yet, the link is also somewhere up here and down in the description. Go check it out. And the third reason for your soil imbalance is the pH level of the soil. It can differ from houseplant to houseplant. Some prefer a little bit more acidic soil, some prefer it to be a little bit more neutral, maybe a little bit alkaline. But for most houseplants, they prefer the pH level to be between 5.5 to 6.5. And when the pH level of the soil is too high or too low, our plants cannot process the oxygen and nutrients that are in the soil. So it's important to keep the soil pH between 5.5 to 6.5 for our plants. And one way to check for soil imbalance is to do a soil test using a soil test kit like the one I have here. This is the rapid soil test kit, and it tests for the pH level and of the soil, but also the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium content of the soil. If you buy a moisture meter, it's usually a 3-in-1, but it also could test the pH level of the soil. So when you insert it in the soil, just make sure it is on the pH tab, and it will tell you if your soil is too acidic or alkaline. But for plant beginners, using a rapid soil test kit or even a digital tool to test the soil pH or to do an analysis of the NPK content of your soil can be very daunting and very unnecessary. The only reason I invested into these tools is honestly, I'm a plant tuber and I'm a bit of a soil nerd. Ever since I started outdoor gardening, I've been really into learning more about soil, and I got this more so for the pH testing, not the moisture level testing, because like I've said in past videos, you don't really need a moisture meter for your houseplants, but it helps for beginners who are unsure of watering. But honestly, a lot of people who get a moisture meter end up not using it later on once they already learned how to water their houseplants. So this one might not be a good investment if you don't really plan to use it for a long time. So for plant beginners or any plant parents who suspects that the reason behind their yellowing leaves is soil imbalance but don't want to invest in these types of tools and kits, then the best remedy you could really do is the quickest and the easiest one is to repot your plant into a new soil or into a new medium, which is I'm doing with my Monstera Sultipicana. The smaller one, I am transferring that to leca. And this leads me to reason number 5, which is our plants could just be adjusting to a new medium. That's why it's experiencing yellowing leaves. This often happens when we repot our houseplants. They often experience shock, and a way that they manifest that shock is by producing yellowing leaves. So give your plants about 2 weeks to a month to adjust to its new home. As long as there's no drastic thing that's going on with your plant, like extreme leaf loss, there's just some yellowing leaves here and there, then I would suggest giving your plants some time to recover from the shock and adjust to its new medium, and it should be okay without you doing anything. And reason number 6, a houseplant is experiencing yellowing leaves might be due to humidity or lack thereof. Most of our houseplants are actually grown and cultivated to tolerate lower level of humidity in our homes. Most of our homes has an average of 30% humidity or less, but there are some types of plants that do require higher levels of humidity, which is between 40% to 60%. So if you have tried all other things and your plants are still yellowing, then humidity might be the issue to that. And there are several ways that you could increase humidity for your house plants. I also have a video on that, the second part of my phenolific care video. So if you haven't checked that out yet, the link is somewhere up here and also down in the description. Go check that out. But to mention some really quickly to increase your humidity for your houseplants is one, improving the air circulation for your houseplants. Keep them away from cold drafts, keep them away from heat vents, cluster your plants together so that they could provide each other with humidity, and of course using a humidifier. And last but not the least, reason number 7 why houseplants is experiencing yellowing leaves is because of location, location, location. Sometimes when we think we already given everything our plants needs, it's none of the reasons I mentioned earlier why they're experiencing yellowing leaves and you tried all remedies. The reason your plant is unhappy and is producing yellowing leaves is because it doesn't like where you place it. Especially for us plant parents who like to treat our houseplants as living art or as part of our home decor, we don't tell our houseplants where we want to place them. Our houseplants tell us where they want to be placed. So the best remedy you could do is to move it to different spots in your space until it finds its happy place. I'll be applying everything that I've said earlier when it comes to determining the reasons for yellowing leaves and how to remedy them with this Monstera siltepecana that, as you can see here, is experiencing so many yellowing leaves. And first reason that I can say is due to the watering, because I have been underwatering this Monstera siltepecana quite severely. I let the soil get too dry for too long, and I'm also very inconsistent with its watering. As far as past pressures and humidity, I don't think that's it. I haven't seen any past pressures on this Monstera siltepecana. As far as humidity, I do have a humidifier in my room and it's currently placed right next to it, so I don't think it's the humidity issue either. But it could also be the location, because I originally had it on my plant shelf that is right next to my west facing window. I removed it from there because the leaves at the back were experiencing leaf burn even though I had a sheer curtain on the window. So I put it up on my green wall. It didn't like it and it's starting to produce all this yellowing leaves, so it didn't like the location it's currently in right now. And another reason that this Monstera siltepecana could be very unhappy is due to its soil pH. And so I'm going to test the pH of this soil using this rapid soil test kit. But let's try it right now with this pH meter and see what is the pH level of the soil of this Monstera siltepecana. According to reviews, they're not really very reliable when it comes to testing for soil pH. Using a soil test kit will give me more accurate results. But let's see anyway what reading this meter would give us when it comes to its pH level. So let me just put it on pH, make sure it is switched, and it is registering as alkaline. So it has a pH level, I think, of about 8 to 7.5 if I'm being generous. So here are the items included in the rapid test soil test kit. It comes with 4 different containers in different colors. The green one is for the pH test, the purple one is for the nitrogen test, the blue one is for the phosphorus test, and the orange one is for the potassium test. It also comes with 4 different pills corresponding the color of each container, and each comes with 10 pills, so that's the ability to do up to 40 tests. Right now I'm doing the pH test just to determine if the reading from the digital meter matches the one that I will get from this one. I don't know if I'll be able to do the NPK analysis for this video. I might have just to put it in another video, just because the process seems a little bit more involved than just doing the pH test, but we're definitely going to do the pH test today. So let's go ahead and test the pH level of the soil where my Monstera siltepecana was originally in. There's a line here that says fill with soil and a line here that says fill with water. So what I'm going to do first is fill it with soil, and this is the soil that came from my Monstera siltepecana. I'm going to put the soil in the smaller one, which is a testing chamber. So yep, so that is a little bit over, but it should be fine. Just fill it with water. I'm going to take one of the green pills, which is right over here. Yeah, so I'm going to open up the capsule and pour the solution in. Make sure everything gets in there. All right, and I'm going to close it, shake it up, and let it like settle for like about a minute. Okay, so it's been like over a minute, and as you can see, it has that yellowish color, and if I look at compared to the chart, it is at pH 6. So the pH level of the soil of the Monstera typicana that was originally in was actually pretty good. The soil pH wasn't bad. So I think for Monstera typicana, the main issue really was the inconsistent watering, and also probably the location it was at. It wasn't very happy where I was putting it, but yeah, so let's go ahead and repot my Monstera typicana. My smaller Monstera typicana. This one I transferred to Leica. It's doing okay. It's adjusting to it, so I'm gonna give it a few more days, a couple of weeks to completely adjust to the Leica, like I'm doing with the other ones that I already have transferred to Leica. I did still experience a couple of yellowing leaves, but that's to be expected. And this is my Monstera typicana now. This is probably a couple days since I repotted it. It's doing pretty well. As you can see, it still has a couple of leaves that are starting to yellow. These are leaves that I didn't take out. The other yellowing leaves are already taken out. This one I didn't. And it's adjusting. It's into new soil. So we will see how it does in a couple weeks or so. But so far, so good. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, I hope subscribe. I come up with houseplants and sustainable lifestyle videos every week. And if you haven't yet, go check out these videos up here until my next one. But until then, I see you. I appreciate you. Take care of yourself and each other, and have a plentiful day. Bye.